On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by River Wind Casino, we discuss where OU checks in some of these post-spring top 25s. Then OU softball legend Erin Miller joins us to preview the Women's College World Series, and we give you our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Wednesday, May 29th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by River Wind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful, award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, blackjack match roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of May, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Ted Lehman, we got a lot going on this week, brother. Let's go.
We got to get it rolling. There's a lot of stuff. You're right. Big things happening around here. So, yeah, let's get it rolling.
Women's College World Series week.
Mm.
Always a fun time to be an OU fan. Right, going for 4 straight. We've got baseball hosting a regional. We'll get to that in winners and losers. But as always, we will start with the OU football stuff. And I just want to point one thing out before we get into some of these post-spring top 25s that have been released. I saw a graphic from OU football, and they posted that this past semester, the cumulative GPA of the team was 3.03. It is the program's highest ever cumulative GPA. As a former nerd, good work, gentlemen. That is awesome. How you do anything is how you do everything. But Ted, should we be worried that the players are worrying about school too much? This is the debate. No, I thought that it was really cool to see that for me.
Yeah, there is a breakover point, where okay, do we really want to be this good with GPA? We're not quite there, but that's awesome. Yeah, that's good. Hey man, as long as your guys are handling their business off the field, and I know there's a lot of motivated guys up there with what they're doing in this whole mission. I think it creates a little bit more ambition to handle the school side of things and do so at a high level. And it's good to hear. It's good to hear they're doing things in a good way.
I think the Soul Mission guys especially do a great job of making these guys realize, hey man, football only lasts for so long. And you got a couple of guys, right, with Curtis Lofton, high draft pick, awesome NFL career. Every guy in that locker room would say, yeah, give me Curtis's career right now. Sign me up for that.
Yeah.
And then you've got a guy like Caleb Kelly, who will never know what he could have been as a player because of the injuries. You never know how it's going to break for you, man. And I just think it's really encouraging that these guys are taking care of their business off the field. And that's something that Venables brings up a lot. Man, he brings it up all the time, right? Get your degree, get your degree. It's the most important thing. And I just think he's bringing those types of guys into the program. And I don't think it's a coincidence at all that it's
Yeah.
such a large emphasis for him. And you've got the highest cumulative GPA in the history of the program for a semester. Like, I don't think that's a coincidence at all.
Well, it's the same thing football wise. Whenever you've got your core and then you add in the pieces, like whether it's high school recruiting, whether it's NIL, people acclimate to what that core does pretty quickly. And if you're coming here and academics is something that is heavily pushed and they're on it up there, well then those guys are going to feed into that. So it's culture thing. It's good.
Culture thing. All right, we'll get to the stuff that people care about now. Ultimately, the players will be judged how they perform on the field. And let's start this discussion with a question, Ted. Where do we think OU should be ranked heading into the season? You think about all the factors, 10-3 a season ago, improvement, large improvement from Venable's first year, lost a lot off the offense, including all 5 starters on the offensive line and your veteran starting quarterback. Dylan Gabriel's now at Oregon. You've got a ton of talent coming back on the defense. You've got a new offensive coordinator. You've got a new defensive coordinator, even though that situation's a little different. No one was fired. So it's not like people were let go because either side of the ball was underperforming. It's just a lot of change. So what do you think, man? Where do you think OU should be ranked in some of these top 25s?
Well, it's hard, because what's the goal of this ranking? Are you trying to guess where Oklahoma's going to finish the season when everything is wrapped up next year? Where is OU going to be? Or is it like, what do they deserve after last year? And are we pre-staging? If we're pre-staging, I think you probably mid-teens, between like the 13 and 16 range.
I think that that's fair. And one of the reasons I believe you put them somewhere in the mid-teens, maybe high teens, is because of the defense. The defense, I think everyone looks at what they're bringing back, some of the pieces that they've added, especially with Dominic Williams now in the interior of that defensive line. And the expectation is for that defense to be really good. Now, we won't know if it's elite until we see him get out there on the field. But I think with the expectation of the defense being really good, that elevates OU in the conversation over a lot of other teams. If you've got one of the best defenses in the SEC, you're going to have a chance at pretty much every game. Now, the offense it's a different discussion, right? There's a lot of uncertainty, and that uncertainty starts with Jackson Arnold. But I do think when people are putting these top 25s together, and remember, these are post-spring top 25s. There will probably be a post-summer workout top 25, and then the preseason top 25. We love top 25 lists, but you do have to wonder how the schedule will affect how people rank them in these top 25s. Ted, because I think it's only natural to look at OU's schedule and go, oh man, I don't want to put them too high because they've got the possibility of losing a bunch of games, and I don't want to look like an idiot for putting them so high in my preseason top 25.
Yeah, it's not an easy exercise, because like I've talked about previously, I think you have Georgia, and then you have a big group of I'm talking SEC here. You got Georgia, then you got a really big group that I think could beat one another each and every week, and Oklahoma plays a lot of schools from that list. So, I mean, I don't know. They should receive, if everyone's going to talk about how difficult the schedule is, well, they should receive some type of benefit from that, as everyone in SEC's past has previously, right? Is that how this works?
It goes one or two ways, right? People will be very reluctant to put them in the top 25, or people will go, oh man, look at that schedule. Oklahoma, they deserve to be in here somewhere with how that schedule looks. We'll see how it shakes out for them. But if I was putting one together, I don't think the exercise is supposed to be, okay, what am I projecting this team to finish? I think you look at the roster, you look at a year ago, you look at the returning production, you look at some of the biggest question marks, and then you go, okay, I think this is one of the 15, 17, 18 best teams in the country. think it's probably a top 10, top 12 most talented roster in the country. If some of the question marks, most notably O-line and quarterback, if those end up getting answered in a very positive way, then maybe Oklahoma's better than that with what they could have defensively. But you could also look at this OU schedule and go, hey, 7-5 is very much in play here. I don't want to put them in my top 15. I would understand a voter thinking that, but I don't think that's supposed to be the exercise, in my opinion. I think you're just supposed to look at the teams and go, okay, who's got the best squad? Who's got the best roster? But
Yeah.
I say that's just not real life. You have to factor the schedule in, I guess.
There's a balance. There's definitely a balance. And I think that's why everyone's preseasons lists are a little bit different. I think because not everyone weighs it the same. I guess the formula is a little bit different. I do think it's interesting because you mentioned that Oklahoma's probably one of the 10 or 12 most talented teams in the country. And I agree with that. But think about how different that statement is if you were to say it's a 10 or 12 most talented team in the country. They've got an elite defense. And how much more talented are they if Jackson Arnold himself is one of the best, ends up being like one of the best quarterbacks in the country? As the hope has been their number one quarterback in his class. Like, if you've got that quarterback and that defense, it all of a sudden elevates the rest of that talent quite a bit.
I do think that whether it's right or wrong, it was one game. I think OU would be getting discussed differently if he would have played really well in the bowl game. I do.
Which is crazy because
it was one game.
It was one game, and it was really like 10 minutes of one game.
There were a lot of mistakes in those 10 minutes, but
there was. I'm saying, like, if that play doesn't reverse and go the other direction, we go punch one in. Like, that game's a blowout. Not only do we not lose, it's a blowout. So I do think a lot is hanging on that, and rightfully so. Like, I mean, you are what the results say you are. But I mean, I do think it's interesting that we have a really wide range, and I think everyone understands that. But not just by the schedule, but by a guy like Jackson Arnold. I mean, just plain and simple, if he comes out and has a really, really good season, the ceiling for Oklahoma is incredibly high.
I think the ceiling is the ceiling win the SEC. I don't know. That feels very, very lofty. Is it the craziest thing I've ever heard? No, but I'm kind of to the point where I'm just going to need to see OU go beat Georgia.
Yeah,
that's just
for sure.
So I think the ceiling, you're probably thinking, hey, host a college football playoff game. I think every OU fan would say, yes, sign me up for that right now.
Yeah.
But this is something else I was thinking. We'll get to a couple of these top 25s, Ted, but do preseason rankings, do they feel like they matter as much as they used to with the expanded playoff?
I still think they do.
I'm with you because your preseason ranking, it shapes how voters view you early in the season. And people typically, if they ranked you high to begin the year, they want to see you succeed. It's human nature. Like, hey, I ranked these teams really high. I want them to win games. I want to continue to rank them high because I ranked them high to start the year. It's just whether that's how it should work or not. That does play a small factor, I would say.
I think the best thing about it is, which we already know, college football is a unicorn sport. There's nothing else like it in the world. And it's kind of, it's almost like not your rooting guide, but you can't the average fan can't keep up with 130 Division One teams. Tell me the 25 that I need to keep my eye out for, right? I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's like it's everyone's homework, I guess, to some degree for the upcoming season, just to try and prioritize out there what you need to look at, who's on your schedule, who's not, because there's a lot happening in college football, and you have to try and like where'd the big swaps of rosters go, who gained a bunch of people, who didn't. It kind of helps you, like, to some degree, stack all of that into a manageable list of things you can actually look at.
Yeah. So let's look at a couple. So multiple outlets have released post spring top 25s. Let's start with one from On Three by Jesse Simonton. He's got Oklahoma at number 17 in his post spring top 25. Here's what he says: the Sooners have the look of a potential playoff spoiler in 2024. Britt Venables' program has been overshadowed by Texas all offseason, but OU boasts an offense that should be one of the SEC's best, even with first-year starting quarterback Jackson Arnold and a completely new starting five along the line. They brought in SMU's Branson Hickman to start at center and landed a key defensive piece in TCU tackle Dominic Williams. The schedule is gnarly, so it'll be imperative for the new look OL to come together immediately this summer. I think my biggest takeaway from what Jesse said is the schedule is gnarly. That's a great way to describe it. But I I think that's a pretty fair assessment of where OU is at. Now, I thought it was interesting you didn't mention any of the big names returning on defense, but talking about transfer portal guys is a little more fun typically. So I get it. But OU at 17, that feels pretty fair from the guys over at On Three.
Yes. I mean, I think it's a fair ranking, and I'm not shocked at it. I also am very confident that there are not 16 better teams in college football than Oklahoma. And that's kind of how this thing works, right? It's like some of it you've earned to a certain degree, but there's not 16 teams better than Oklahoma. As I see it. I mean, I guess I could be wrong about that, and this team doesn't come together, but I mean, that's just kind of about the range that you're going to land in. There's some hesitancy because of the people that have exited, all the things that we've talked about. That's probably the high range of what you're going to see.
So I have anytime I'm looking at basically any list now, I look for how many SEC teams there are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if I used to do that with Big 12 teams, but I find myself doing it every single time with
Well, you did
SEC
it with Big
teams.
12 teams, but it was always three. It's about where
Exactly.
you'd see it.
OU, Texas, Kansas State.
And then some mix of someone else.
But looking at On Three's post spring top 25, you've got Georgia at 1, Texas at 3, Alabama at 4, Ole Miss at 6, Missouri at 10, Tennessee at 14, LSU at 16, and Texas A&M at 23. Ted, we keep bringing this up. You look at OU's schedule. We've got number 3, number 4, number 6, number 10, number 14, and number 16 all on the conference schedule. We're going to continue to bring it up. This is why OU schedule is unanimously considered one of the toughest in the country. These post spring top 25 lists, and we'll go through a couple more of them. It paints a picture of just how difficult it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's what has excited us. It's what makes the move to the SEC great. I mean, I still believe, and maybe we get into the season and this thing feels just like a relentless beatdown. I don't think that's going to be the case, because all of that being said, and I agree, there's in this top 10, there's 4 of the top 10 teams are on our list, 5 in the top 15. That's just this list. I still believe that we can beat everyone on our schedule, though. I mean, do I think we'll beat everyone on our schedule? No, I don't think that we're going to beat everyone on our schedule. I think we'll drop a couple of games. But I think we're as likely to lose to Texas as we are to lose to Ole Miss. And I think we're as likely to beat Texas or Ole Miss as we are to beat. Yeah, it's all kind of right there. I don't see anyone on our schedule that you'll just look at it based on where the teams are and say we can't win that game. We may be an underdog, but there's not anyone on our schedule that's out of our range.
I think this is something I've talked to multiple people about the last couple of weeks. I think there's going to be an adjustment period for OU fans and for SEC fans in general. And one of the things that makes college football great is just how catastrophic a loss feels. But I think there's going to be an adjustment period where it may take us a while, but it's going to start feeling more like the NFL, where, yeah, a loss really sucks. You hate it. You never want it, but it's not going to feel like the sky is falling because of the expanded playoff and because of just how the SEC and the Big Ten are constructed. I mean, year in and year out, these schedules are going to be brutal, man.
Yep.
Absolutely brutal. And I don't know what that I don't know what that change looks like from a fan perspective. You're still going to be mad when OU loses. Like, I'm not trying to say that you're not, but I think it's going to start to feel different. Like, you go on the road and get beat by a good team. I don't think it's going to feel like the season has just ended right before our eyes, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, and especially after we see how the 12-team playoff kind of sorts itself out, it's reasonable to suggest that you can come in 4th place in the SEC and make the college football playoff. What does that mean record-wise? I'm not sure. 9-3, possibly. I don't know, but I mean, it's not out of the realm that 4 SEC teams make a 12-team playoff. I mean, a lot of people felt like that's kind of what's going to happen. And I think on a lot of years that could be the case.
I agree. I mean, Mark Schlabach, his post-spring top 25 for ESPN, he's got the Sooners at number 18. But kind of to your point of the SEC likely having 4 teams in this inaugural, is that the right word? Inaugural 12-team college football playoff. Is that the correct word?
I think so.
Okay, nailed it. That's how you get that big time cumulative GPA right there. Big words.
Showing it off.
But you look at his top 10. He's got Georgia at 1, Texas at 3, Ole Miss at 6, Bama at 7, Missouri at 8. He's also got LSU at 14 and Tennessee at 15. And he's got the Sooners at 18. So when you've got all of these teams in the top 18, top 15, the odds of 4 of them making it seem relatively high. But that also paints a picture of, oh my gosh, OU's schedule is, once again, very difficult. We've got number 3, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 14, and number 15 on the schedule.
Yeah. I guess I just wonder, like, we're in a good position where, you know, we're going to have to earn our respect in this conference, which is the best way to do it. And when you look at that list, and he's got 6 teams that we play in the top 15, like, all things equal, forget where we deserve to be. Like, where do we stack up with those 6 teams in your opinion?
I think
Like if you're to like do it a neutral site type
it,
of situation.
it's interesting because he's got Texas at 3. I feel like that's the one program we kind of know how we stack up. We're right there.
Yeah.
I know they just went to the playoff, but we beat them last year. So I feel you know what Texas is. The other ones are kind of the question marks. You have to assume that you're less talented than Alabama, even with Saban retiring and DeBoer taking over.
Yep.
They have been the gold standard of college football for a long time now. But as far as Missouri, LSU, Tennessee, and Ole Miss, you got to feel like you are right on their level or better if you're Oklahoma.
I think on a neutral site situation, I think we're better than all those. Just kind of, you know, what I know of the programs, like how some of the dynamics are going to work. I like for Ole Miss. I mean, they've pulled together some really good talent. I I'm not convinced that it's going to just be some seamless transition for all of those guys. And like there's a place where I think you could pull that off and pull it off really nicely. And I just don't think Ole Miss happens to be one of those places that you can do it at the current moment. I could be wrong. I see us. I think we're more talented than more talented or right there. Like the one that throws you off is Texas. Is like I think we are right there with Texas. I would probably edge us in front of Texas, but at the same time, I don't look at the number 3 ranking next to Texas and believe that to be real. So, like, I'm not sitting here saying we should be number 4. So it's I don't know. It's it's why these things are so interesting, right?
Yeah. One thing that I was looking at Schleybal's list, and one thing that struck me was seeing he's got USC at 25.
Mm-hmm.
As a fan base, are we done with that? Is that over?
Think we've got too much on our plate right
Right?
now to mess with it.
It feels
It'll
like
come back.
we've got enough to worry about ourselves. Right? Like I don't know. Are we still devoting energy when it comes to cheering against Lincoln Riley and USC? It
I
was
think
just a random thought I had when I saw the logo on the list. I was like, huh, I wonder where we're at as a fan base on that whole thing.
I think we've got a lot on our plate, and because of the current situation, I think it's transitioned to probably more of an in-season hate fest going on right now. I could be wrong about that. There may be some people that are daily hate watching USC still. I saw a headline where they've been trying for 2 years to dodge the LSU game. So I know there's probably going to be some Sooner fans have some fun with that one, stuff like that. I'm sure we'll still be a part of that.
That's fair. I just I don't think we're going to devote as much energy to our hatred for USC. It's always going to be there, still going to be there. But I don't know. I saw them on the list and I went, oh man, because you've got these 6 teams that you've got to play in the top 15. Can't be worried about USC checking in at 25. We've
No,
got to focus on the 6 conference foes that are supposed to be really, really, really good.
yeah. Which I mean, and you mentioned this. It's Texas is the comfortable one on the list, right? Like we know where we sit with them. We play them every year. We know the rosters. You know how they play, know their offense, know their defense. Everyone else, it's just you. What you know is kind of where they're ranked, and look at their schedule, and look at what they did last year. It's hard to know how all of it translates.
Dennis Dodd, out of all the post spring top 25s, he's got OU the highest at number 13. And Dodd wrote, the issue here is the Sooners making progress while also assimilating into the SEC. There's loads of anticipation for new quarterback Jackson Arnold. The offensive line was impacted by the portal. As for incoming talent, Purdue transfer receiver Deion Burks looks like a game breaker. His SEC teams, he's got Georgia at 1, Texas at 4, Bama at 5, Ole Miss at 6, Missouri at 7, LSU at 10, Tennessee at 16, and A&M at 23. So OU's got 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 16 on the conference schedule. Pretty common theme among all these post-spring top 25s, Ted, and that is OU's conference schedule is, as it's viewed right now, is absolutely brutal.
It is. It is, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I think it's great. I think the way that it lays out, on the calendar for us is great. I think this will sort itself out to some degree, but like a Missouri, I think they're going to have what I'll call an artificially high ranking all year because I think they're a good, solid team. They're coming off of a 10-win season, finished in the top 10 last year. And you look at their schedule, it is the exact opposite of what Oklahoma's is. I mean, it is about as easy as you could ask for a conference schedule, given the 16 teams that are now in the SEC. What Missouri plays is pretty good for them. It looks great. So I think they're going to be ranked really high. Everyone else, it's just kind of like Bama is interesting to me. I could see a case where Bama could lose a couple of games early and maybe really fall, and we'll see how that pans out. I think LSU, you want to talk about a team that's going to look and feel totally different than they did a year ago. That's LSU. I think LSU could be anywhere from a top 10 program to out of the top 25. It's hard to know. So, and everyone else is just kind of a range in between that.
It's going to be such a fun year, man. The uncertainty, the mystery, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be awesome. Let's get to call your shot. We asked you guys if you were doing a post-spring top 25, where would you have the Sooners ranked? This first one comes from Nathan Sutmiller, who says 15. Talented roster, but unproven head coach, new offense coordinator, new defense coordinator, new QB, unproven offensive line. That's a lot of variables to overcome.
Was that 15? Is that what you said?
15. Yeah, that feels very, very fair from our man Nathan.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think, and I agree with a lot of those things. I mean, you got an unproven quarterback with a really high ceiling, unproven head coach. I mean, I think that you can easily point and say, well, bounce back from year one and won 10 games. But I think you can also say that as a football team, there is a ton of meat on the bone to be a smarter, more detailed football team to win in the margins. Like, we have not been good there over the last 2 years. And if we don't get a lot better there, it's going to be difficult to go through a schedule like this. I mean, the small things, penalties, turnovers. Turnovers are not small things, obviously, but how you operate, like, just kind of logistically in critical moments of football games, we've got to be a lot better.
I agree. Ted, it's almost Women's College World Series time. And we've got Erin Miller, OU legend, to break it all down for us. But first, Love's Travel Stops is now offering a nationwide 10-cent per gallon discount on gas and auto diesel. Just download the Love's Connect app and scan your barcode at the prompt on screen and watch that price drop 10 cents per gallon. Across the country, the Love's Connect app unlocks exclusive deals and can help any traveler plan their route or meal on the highway. So before you hit the road, be sure to download the Love's Connect app to save 10 cents per gallon and experience the country's best highway hospitality at Love's Travel Stops. Love Sauce has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones with their expanded mobile to go zone. And of course, don't forget to grab yourself some of that delicious Java Amore.
And celebrate with a Schooner All-American Ale, the official craft beer of OU Athletics from Coop Ale Works. Named after the iconic Sooner schooner that races across Owen Field after an OU score, you can join in on the celebration with an ice-cold beer from Coop Ale Works. You can enjoy it at the Palace on the Prairie, at OU athletic events, at the bar, at the tailgate, and in the comfort of your own home. For more information on Schooner All-American Ale, visit SchoonerAle.com. Must be 21 to purchase. Please drink responsibly. Schooner All-American Ale, the taste of game day.
And we love Simple Modern. Simple Modern is an Oklahoma-owned drinkware company and #1 drinkware sales leader on Amazon and Target. This summer, Simple Modern launched its Summer Shop, where they drop new and unique drinkware options every other Tuesday all summer long. Now you can get your own limited edition version of their extremely popular 40-ounce Treks in designs you won't see anywhere else. And even better, Simple Modern exists to give generously, donating 10% of all profits so you can know you're helping better Oklahoma and beyond with every purchase. Check out the Summer Shop and all of their amazing products at simplemodern.com. All right, let's talk some Women's College World Series with Erin Miller. It is our pleasure to be joined by a two-time national champion. She was an All-American. She also is a fantastic softball analyst for ESPN. Erin Miller Thiessen is in the house. Erin, what's going on?
I am absorbed in the world of softball and I'm loving it. So that's what's going on. Good softball is what's going on.
Been wild. It's been fun. I mean, you go through the regular season for Oklahoma, and it hasn't been one of those years where you just stomp everyone all the way through. There's been some nervous moments, but you got to feel they're playing some of their best ball of the year right whenever they need to, right?
Yeah, that's a part of the magic, I think, of this time of year is playing your best, right? During postseason, peaking at the right time. I think OU's there. We saw that specifically in the Big 12 tournament. I think that was when they really turned the corner and started to figure some things out. It is wild though that we feel this way on a team that's 54-6. Like that too, I think just tells the story of what the expectation
You
is.
did this.
I
You and
know.
your you did this. You did this to us as
Yeah,
a
you
fan base.
started
It's
it.
your fault.
That I chuckle at this all the time because of course, like I get these questions a lot. Like, oh my gosh, what's happening? We've hit some hiccups. We're talking about a team that's 54-6. I mean, that should put it in perspective. A team that went on a 71 game winning streak, won the title last year, having only dropped one game all season. Like this program, this team is a dynasty. One of the most, if not the most at this point, prolific senior classes we've ever seen come through our sport. They only know winning the last game of their season. Think about that. The past 3 years for this senior class, they have only ever won the last game of each season that they've been a part of, which is wild. So I think honestly, this is a squad this year that's having to work a muscle they haven't had to work so much in years past, which is learning how to lose, learning how to move past defeat and what that response requires. Kinsey Hansen gave an interview after one of their first losses, which I actually called that game, and she said, "We're learning how to get our teeth kicked in." And good teams know how to take that and then respond from it. You guys know, you learn the most from losses. Like we've all been a part of those teams where you walk away from an L and you're like, okay, we have our work cut out for us. What is it going to take now to enter the field again and play some different ball? And this team, I think, is just having to work a different muscle this year to do it.
As OU heads in to the Women's College World Series, what's the biggest concern for you? Or maybe I don't know if weakness is the right word. Maybe something that you think other teams could possibly exploit if OU really isn't on their game.
I'll tell you what I think has to show up for this team to four-peat is pitching. When I look at the landscape right now, when I look at all 8 teams, every single one of these squads has an extremely dominant ace, if not a 1, 2, even 3 deep punch. Specifically, Texas has the most diverse and solid staff in the nation right now. Like that's not even a question. That is why they are the #1 team in the nation, I think, is their staff has really carried the weight for them. They've got some good offense, but their staff is wicked. For OU to four-peat, Kelly Maxwell and Nicole May, that duo, that 1-2 punch is gonna have to elevate to a whole new level. Because there's been times where I've seen those two arms be untouchable and times where the strike zone's hard to find and they're struggling to keep the ball in the yard. And that, I think, is the portion of OU's game right now that will have to really go to another mental level in order to four-peat. Oddly enough, too, Gabe, I've seen this squad make some uncharacteristic base running decisions and base running errors. That's rare for Oklahoma. I even think just in the handful of games that I've covered this year, a couple of those being losses, there were some odd choices being made 60 feet to 60 feet. So I think from a mental standpoint, the physical's there. We've seen them make ridiculous plays. We know that the physical ability is going to show up, but the mental game, the I'm not going to be denied mentality has got to be present for them to win a four-peat.
You mentioned it a little bit, but what do you think of the overall field and the draw? You know, Duke's really good. I mean, they got 3 really good pitchers at least. But I don't know. Maybe I've got PTSD from Stanford last year, but it feels like we got a pretty good draw.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on paper, you look at who OU's facing and you're feeling pretty good. I've covered Duke this year. Jayla Wright can zip it about 73 miles an hour up in your eyes. She's a little scary to face. She's very, very fiery, a fierce competitor in the circle. Like, I know she's going to go to a whole another stratosphere when facing OU. Duke is also a team that has a chip on their shoulder. This is a squad that came in as the 10 seed that assumed and really believed in their core that they were going to host, and they didn't. They did not host for supers. And so that, I think, is another fuel to their fire, is that when you go back, if you watch Selection Show Sunday, they were pissed, visibly pissed at their seeding. And they should. They outright won their conference. They won their tournament. They had a little bit of a weaker non-con schedule, but like their record and the teams that they had beaten throughout the year, personally, a lot of people and myself thought that they deserved a higher seed than what they were. So I think that adds a different little spice and perspective to this matchup, is they feel like they have something to prove. And most people don't want to get in the way of teams that have that perspective in the postseason.
It seems like a crazy question, but should OU be the favorite? They've won 3 of them in a row.
Yeah.
But it's weird not to see the 1 seed next to their name. Do you think they are the favorite coming in? Especially you've got to factor it being in Oklahoma City and what that can do to elevate the team. But do you feel best about OU winning the title, or is it someone else?
I believe, and this is such a hard thing to come out of my mouth because I am a Sooner and I will bleed crimson until the day I die. But I do believe that Texas outright earned that 1 seed. That's the first time in program history they've ever held the 1 seed. They almost got beat out of their own super, right? We talked about that. A&M put up a hell of a fight against one of the toughest offenses in the nation. But as far as body of work and all aspects of a team, hitting, defense, pitching, base running, the whole package, from what I have witnessed this year, and I have covered a lot of teams, covered Texas early in the season, I knew back in February that Texas was going to be in that 1-2 jump with OU. But I do believe at this point, from what I have seen, that Texas has earned that spot. Now, thinking about what happened in Big 12 play, OU drops that series against Texas, right? If I'm Oklahoma, I would rather lose those games then, because we're likely going to see them face Texas in the Women's College World. I would be shocked if we don't, because I think those two teams are the leaders in this landscape right now. I don't know that I would want to face an Oklahoma fighting for a four-peat. I think you may see a different version, and an elevated version of the Sooners that have figured some things out since the last time they played the Longhorns. Guys, we may see a 20-inning ball game between those two teams. Like, that is how good OU and Texas are. And to your point, Gabe, it's a squad that has won the last 3. And there is a skill set to that. You can't replace that experience, right? To know that pressure so well that it doesn't shake you. In fact, it fuels and excites you. That's the edge that OU has right now. But talent on the field, numbers, complete body of work, complete team, Texas has that. So I am stoked for the 8 teams that we have in this tournament, because the storylines and just the body of work that all these teams have put together, this may be one of the most wild Women's College World Series we've seen in a long time.
Who's the team that maybe people aren't talking about and they should be? And maybe it's Duke. I think Duke's probably a good candidate for that, but maybe someone else that you think has a shot. The matchups look good. Maybe the pitching stat, like whatever it is, somebody that maybe could come clawing out of the back of the pack and make a run at it.
I feel like I could make a case for a lot of these teams. The fact that Alabama took 2 from Tennessee at Tennessee against Carlin Pickens, who, in my opinion, was one of the best pitchers in the nation. Stanford, led by Najee Kennedy, she just won USA Player of the Year. Sub 1 ERA. I think her ERA is 0.5 with 240 plus strikeouts, 75 miles an hour, rise ball spin, like wicked. I'm so glad I'm not playing while she's in our game, because she would have eaten my with that. Same thing. I think I'm probably gonna get guff for saying this because of the history, but UCLA did not make it out of their own region last year. They were 2 and done at LA, right? So that, I think, is also fuel the fact that they didn't make the dance. They hardly got past the front door of the dance last season in their own house. So yeah, I think there's a few players in this field. I covered Florida Baylor last weekend. Florida, who hit a couple bumps in the road early in the year, caught fire in the SEC tournament and has had probably the hottest offense in the nation the last 4 weeks. So there's a lot of storylines. I think there will be some unexpected outcomes, I would assume, in this first round of play, which starts tomorrow. I'm so stoked for that. But yeah, I can make a case for a lot of these teams today. I think that some of these squads were not on a lot of people's bingo cards to be the tournament.
We clearly know all the OU players, right? They're rock stars in the state of Oklahoma with the amount of success that they've had. Who are some of these other big names in the tournament that we need to know? People that you've seen calling games this year where you're like, hey, this is a player that OU fans need to know because they're just that good.
So first, I think you got to talk about Texas. They're the #1 team in the nation. Reese Atwood was one of the 3 Player of the Year finalists, top 3. Her offensive numbers, she has doubled in almost every single offensive category her numbers from last season. I don't know what Wheaties she's been eating. I don't know what she's been doing in the weight room. We need to figure out what that regimen is, because I'm trying to get on that regimen, but she has doubled virtually every single offensive category. Average, home runs, OBP, runs scored. Like, what she's done this year is ridiculous. In the circle for Texas, it's Kavan. Tegan Kavan is a freshman arm. They added a heck of a talent to this already deep staff. I already said she throws up upwards of 72, 73 miles an hour. So those are two names, I think, for the Longhorns to really keep an eye on. As far as Florida, you can't not talk about Florida without mentioning Skylar Wallace. She is their shortstop, a 6-year senior, transferred over from Alabama. One of the most athletic and just like, she reminds me of Jada Coleman in that way, where she just makes some freaky plays. You're like, how in the hell did you get a glove on that ball? That is Skylar Wallace at shortstop. Same thing offensively. So consistent. I think in the last 12 games, she's hitting over 750, like just ridiculous video game numbers for her. Kayla Beaver, an arm for Alabama that really helped them climb that mountain at the Rocky Top, and were able to take 2 from Tennessee to punch their ticket. And then UCLA, Maya Brady, y'all know the name. It's the Brady family. They do what they do. It's in her blood. She's put together a hell of a year and continues to be a huge leader for that team. So a lot of big names, I think, in the landscape during the Women's College World Series. And too, like, I think of what Caitlin Clark did for college basketball. Like, I think we're starting to see some of these names even in our sport that are emerging and really putting softball, if it's not already on the map, which it is, but the fandom, right? Like these young women are celebrities for us. So it's fun to see where this sport has gone.
I agree. Last thing I've got for you, it's the time of year whenever we start to hear random coaches from across the country bitching about the tournament being in Oklahoma City. You know, the state's invested in it. They've got a great facility there. That's where it's always been. What type of an advantage is that? They've won 3 straight. In my opinion, had nothing to do with any of those 3. Now, this year with the tighter margin, perhaps between the teams, like maybe it is a difference. How do you quantify that if you can?
Yeah. My gosh, this has been a topic I feel like that's just hung around for far too long. I don't know how we haven't put this to bed yet. You know what I mean? Like,
What happens when you win it every year? Like no one cares if you don't win it, right?
that's my thing is like, if you don't want them to have a perceived home field advantage, beat them. Beat them before they get there. Beat them before they get there. And to the other point, like, we're talking about a quote unquote dynasty. The past 10 years, what OU has done is only in the past 10 years, right? So there were people winning championships far before the four-peat for OU was even a thought. I mean, UCLA, I can't even count how many championships they've won. And it's all been in Oklahoma City. So I don't know. I think that it's a very easy, low-hanging fruit take for a lot of people, and I think it's a cheap punch. There are so many other things that have to take place and be right and be done and executed consistently day in and day out to even have a shot to play in OKC. And I can promise you that OU's success is not relying on the fact that they are 45 minutes up the road from their home park. Like, that's not reality. And I've played in that landscape. I've played in Oklahoma City, and 8,000 to 9,000 people at the time. It's grown since then. I think we're 13,000 fans now in that stadium. They are, I promise you, not all rooting for Oklahoma. A lot of them are just softball fans. A lot of them are just bystanders that love the sport. And when OU plays, of course, you're going to see some crimson in the stands, but OSU lives right up the road. Like, we're going to see some orange and black in the stands as well. So yeah, I hear it all the time, and I think you can already tell, like, it revs the engine a little bit, and I'll get on my soapbox and chirp at some people, but hopefully this team is able to flush that stuff down the same drain that the rest of it goes.
Well, get that engine revved, Erin, because we're gonna. It's gonna take us all for them to four-peat. You're the best. It's always fun getting the breakdown from you. You're doing such an awesome job on
you.
ESPN. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
For Pete, baby. Come on. Gotta have it. Need it. It's
Gonna be
exciting.
fun.
It's always such a fun event in Oklahoma City.
Fun event. It's a great schedule, great group of teams. It's going to be packed, going to be loud. It's going to be fun, man. This is the best time of the year.
Let's finish up with our winners and losers of the week. But first,
all you grill masters, listen up. Didier Ranch delivers premium quality beef that is 100% raised in Oklahoma right to your front door. Go to didierranch.com, DIDIER ranch.com to order one of their premium quality beef boxes and use promo code Oklahoma15 for 15% off your order. Filet, ribeye, New York strip, sirloin, steak burgers, they've got it all, and they ship anywhere in the continental U.S., and Oklahomans can get deliveries in just 1 to 2 days. The only thing better than having a lot of premium beef on the O&D line is having premium beef delivered right to your front door. Didier Ranch, tradition tastes better.
And head to the garage for hand smashed patties, butter toasted buns, and some ice cold beer. It's the perfect spot to watch any big game, and with all the garage locations being open to 10 p.m. or later every night, it's the go-to late night spot. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood.
Attention business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com.
As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
Got to go OU baseball. Hadn't had a chance to talk about it. Hosting the regional. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. First round matchup with ORU. And then you've also got Duke and UConn in the mix as well. It's a strong regional. Duke is a really good team. They're stacked. They've got some really good arms, good pitching, a couple of all ACC players there throughout their lineup. Had a good record throughout the year. Duke's going to be a really tough out. If you can get through this regional, you got to be feeling pretty good about yourself.
And it wasn't that long ago when ORU beat OU.
Yeah. What was Skip's quote? ORU, well, they beat your ass last time you played them. Which is so Skip, but I mean, it's true. It's a stacked regional, but if we get good play out of our starters, you should be in a pretty good spot.
What, first time since 2010 that OU's hosting a regional in Norman? I know people are disappointed that they weren't a top 8 seed. I understand that. It was a little head scratching for me, but I'm not going to pretend I'm that dialed in to college baseball. Most people thought they were going to be a top 8 seed, but I'm expecting an awesome atmosphere in Norman for these. They're doing all the cool stuff out in the outfield. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it should be. You're right. They got the tent set up out there on the berm. And I think you can get an all session pass out there fairly cheap if they still have them. But you're right. I haven't looked at the weather. Hopefully we get good weather. And if that's the case, yeah, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have a great turnout out there. I mean, people started paying attention. Baseball's in a pretty good place.
Just a reminder, ORU made it to Omaha last year. Do you remember that?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, the reason I bring that up is those guys are not going to, a lot of the guys on the team are going to understand like that pressure feeling, and they're not going to be scared of the moment. And I expect the Sooners to rise to the occasion as well, but you look at this regional, a lot of people thought Duke could be a regional host. It's tough, man. It ain't easy at all.
No, it's not. It's not. But it's a good opportunity, and
Yeah.
I still feel like we've got a couple of really good starters. We've got a really good closer. I think it kind of depends. When you get into the tournament format stuff, if you can protect arms and kind of outlast people, and as long as our offense is clicking, which it's been pretty good lately, give ourselves a really good chance.
All right. Who do you have as your loser of the week?
I think walk-ons already kind of walk around on eggshells, a little nervous from day to day whenever they're walking around the football program, and not just at Oklahoma, everywhere. Probably a little more nervous now with this new House versus NCAA settlement. One of the things that's kind of been brought up in the wake of it, because you're going to have $20 million carved out revenue sharing to pay players, and there's been talk of limiting rosters, 85 scholarships, and boom, that's your cutoff right there at 85. And I think some walk-ons got to be pretty nervous about that, and rightfully so. The good news is down at the SEC spring meeting, spring get together, it sounds like every single coach across the board has been behind keeping the walk-on program going in college football, and I echo that. I think that would be a disaster for high school football. I think it's just overall would be horrible for college football to eliminate the walk-on program.
Yeah, it'd be stupid, and it's not going to happen.
Yep.
It's just not. Those coaches are defending it because they know how important those guys are to conducting all of the practices.
Yeah.
I mean, that is why practicing the NFL and practicing college football are so different. Because you've only got 53 guys. Now you've got the practice squad guys as well. But when numbers are limited like that, there's some guys, especially key guys that are banged up. It changes how you have to practice within the season. It just does. And I think a lot of college football coaches are looking to avoid that.
Yeah.
You have to have those bodies to get the reps, especially, and we'll see if spring ball ends up changing what that looks like moving forward. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the adjustments the NFLPA are trying to make to OTAs moving forward, basically just making it a longer training camp and going away from the stuff in April and May. But I don't think there's any way that walk-ons just disappear. I just can't imagine that happening.
No, I think it's critical for how a team functions, and I think it's critical, like for Oklahoma, especially since Venables has been back, what they've done with the walk-on program, and they've made it a priority, and I think that drives interest, especially in your own state, back into the high school ranks that want to come play for you on a big scale, not just because you're a big program, but because they've seen non-scholarship kids come in, earn starting jobs, earn scholarships. Like there's more than one route to playing college football, and I think that's a good thing.
I'm with you. I don't think there's any way. Maybe. You never know.
I hope not.
I
Yeah,
feel
you
like
never know. Here's the thing though. Not so much for Oklahoma, but for a lot of schools. I mean, you think about like, I don't know, some of the teams maybe that were in the Pac-12 that's gone away, or the ACC who they're stuck into this revenue. $20 million is a big deal. There's going to have to be some tough decisions made somewhere along the line. I don't think it's going to be walk-ons, but it's going to become much more difficult to run an athletic program.
no doubt. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first, Fellas, Father's Day is coming up on June 16th, and our friends at Manscaped have some excellent gift options for you to get your dad. Head over to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with code OKBreakdown. My dad's got a beard, and he desperately needed a trimmer upgrade, so I got him the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. It's the complete beard maintenance kit for all the bearded dads out there. This all-in-one kit comes with the Beard Hedger, that's Manscaped's most advanced beard trimmer, as well as shampoo, conditioner, oil, and balm for his beard. It also comes with a brush, comb, and scissors so he can style his beard and mustache. My mom will probably do that for him, but it is what it is. Fancy stuff. Now, maybe your dad isn't blessed with a luxurious beard. Well, you can get him some pairs of the Boxers 2.0. They were designed with a simple mission to make the most comfortable boxers using perforated performance fabric for extra breathability. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code OKBreakdown at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code OKBreakdown. Happy Father's Day from Manscaped.
And head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. That's OPOLIS clothing.com. Use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
For my winner of the week, thought about going with the Florida Panthers. What, you thought I wasn't watching playoff hockey? Come on, Ted.
NHL for you?
Yeah. Win game 4 of the East Final there against the New York Rangers. Series all knotted up at 2-2. You got to love an overtime power play goal to win it. I don't know what the football equivalent to a hockey power play is, but a well-executed power play, Sam Reinhart just buries it. He's right there in the middle of what do you call it? The middle of the zone. I don't know what a power play. I don't know a ton of hockey
lingo. He's in
lingo.
the crease.
He can't be in the crease, Ted. Can't have your skates in the crease. I know the rules.
The slot.
He's in the slot. I think that's what it's actually called. And just flawless execution. It was like watching a team run a beautiful zone running play from 15 yards out and score a touchdown. It was really nicely done. But yeah, playoff hockey's so much fun and got a good one between the Rangers and the Panthers.
Yeah. Yep, that's good. And who knows? Maybe you got Dallas pulling the double, NHL, NBA double, getting a couple teams into the finals, perhaps.
It looks very, very, very possible. Which brings me to my winner of the week, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Listen,
hey,
I think the Mavs are going to win the series. I still like the Mavs in 6, but I just appreciate the Timberwolves getting a win in game 4 so that we have some more basketball to watch. There was about to be a comically long break between the conference finals and the NBA finals. I mean, no matter what, NBA finals start on June 6th. So there was just going to be an absurd break between now and then. So I appreciate Anthony Edwards playing well. Karl Anthony Towns. Now he does some of the dumbest stuff when it comes to fouls. Like he just does so many stupid things, but he shot the ball extremely well. I appreciated them giving us something to watch. And the Mavs not having Derek Lively, I felt like that was a pretty significant thing. It's hard to replace a guy with his size and energy. Did see Maxi Kleber back out there for him, but ultimately Anthony Edwards, big shot in the final minute of the game. I'm glad I get to keep watching those two teams play some games instead of just having an 8-day break.
Yeah, it's kind of a bad look if both conference finals are sweeps, right?
I don't think it's what you're going for if you're the NBA.
No. It's not what you're going for. But hey, it's what we've got. And yeah, extend this thing a little bit, which, I think the people that you expected the same thing to happen in the Celtics series, right? It's like, oh, they're not going to sweep them yet. I mean, they got to squeeze some money out of this thing. So it's funny to see Minnesota go into Dallas and get that win, but you don't want to mess around too much. I know what the record says with teams that are down 3-0, but I mean, you don't want to be taking a bunch of unnecessary injuries, bumps and bruises, whatever, by extending the series.
No, I'm with you, but I do think Minnesota's going to win game 5. And I think Dallas finishes it off in game 6. It did get a little interesting there when Anthony Edwards fouled Luka on that 3. I was like, oh boy. Because if they ended up losing that game, like let's say Luka hits that free throw, all the good things that Anthony Edwards did in that game,
Oh
that
my
big
God.
shot, it all disappears if Dallas finds a way after him committing that foul. But didn't happen, and we've got some more basketball to watch, which is nice. My loser of the week. Thought about going with Gordon Hayward. So, rewind to the player exit interviews. He had some interesting things to say. Some would say the man's a little delusional. Sam Presti had his end of the year press conference, which lasted like 2.5 hours. And his quote about the Gordon Hayward trade, I missed on that. That's on me, but I'm trying to learn this team. He also added, I don't think I read that one perfect. Sam Presti is about the most professional person you'll ever meet. That is Sam Presti's version of saying, beat it, nerd.
Yeah, that's so weird. Like, what's the deal with Gordon
And then
Hayward?
Gordon Hayward's wife is like chiming in on social
Yeah.
media. And that whole situation has gotten very weird. But I felt like that was Sam Presti in the most professional way possible saying, forget you, dude. Get lost. Like, this is not, you did not handle this professionally like I anticipated. And I don't know. You don't hear Presti say stuff about players like that very often.
No, you don't. I mean,
Maybe
that's
ever.
that's what's so curious. I guess I don't know what Gordon Hayward expected out of the whole situation. I don't know the dynamics there, but it's been awful strange.
Very strange. But my loser of the week, the Indiana Pacers. Another fourth quarter lead blown, and the series is over. Ted, they had a fourth quarter lead in 3 of the 4 games. They were up 3 with the ball with 9 seconds to go in game 1, lost. Up 8 with 2.5 minutes to go in game 3, lost. We're up 18 in the second half, and we're up 8 with 5.5 minutes to go in the game in game 4. And what'd they do, Ted? They lost.
Mm.
Now, credit to the Boston Celtics. You play 4 quarters, you got to finish games. And that's exactly what they did. Tyrese Halliburton missing game 3 and game 4. That's always going to be a what if for this series. But this is right where we all expected the Boston Celtics to be. They've been the best team in the league. You look at their records, just so much better than everyone else's. But Ted, no one cares what they did in the Eastern Conference.
No.
This is pretty much where we're at with the Celtics. They either win a title and they're celebrated, or they lose a title and everyone says, what's wrong with this team? They can't get it done. What's wrong with Tatum and Brown? Maybe we'll revisit the, hey, do you have to break them up conversation? But that's just kind of where they're at with the success that they've had with Tatum and Brown. It's like, hey, it's not fair, but it's title or bust.
Well, you could understand to a degree if they're in the finals against like someone like Denver, right?
Yeah.
But this year, there's not going to be any excuse. Dallas, even if Minnesota were to somehow come back and win it all, like it's the same thing for the Celtics. Like they're going to be a favorite, and if they don't pull it off, like this is going to be their best chance, I guess is the better way to put it.
No doubt. I mean, especially they've gotten some really good injury luck on their way to the finals. Now they had the Porzingis thing, and we'll see how does he factor in to the NBA Finals. Does he make a triumphant return in Game 1? I don't know. That thing has stayed pretty quiet, but I'm excited to see what they look like. I don't. Jaylen Brown is such an interesting player, and the way that people talk about him has always been a little confusing to me. So I was excited that he won Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and I loved how shocked he was when he won it. The look on his face was priceless, but I don't know. I'm really interested to see what they look like in the NBA finals because they're going to be
Was
favored.
Was it 2 years ago where he looked horrible in the finals?
Where his left hand just stopped working.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it became a big talking point. Do you need to split him up? The whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of has hung over them for a little bit, but hey, you got a chance to put all that behind you. We'll see.
I don't know if it's fair, but Boston Celtics will solely be judged on what they do in the NBA finals with what their path was to the finals. So I'm looking forward to it, although gotta wait a little bit.
It's
Appreciate you, Timberwolves. At least I still have some basketball to watch. I appreciate you guys. Birthday shout outs. Happy upcoming birthday to Kimberly Jones.
And happy upcoming birthday to Michael Barnes.
On that note, episode 426 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Sunday. Just a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Have an awesome weekend. Enjoy the Women's College World Series if you're going. Bring lots of water. Remember, you can bring water in.
Yes.
Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.